In this video, you could say I am coming to grips with the situation. I'm getting hands-on. Basically, I'm really going to get a handle on things. Or I could just be installing a new steering wheel in my car. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Randy. Of course, this is the 5.5 Garage channel, and today I will be installing a quick release steering hub and steering wheel in my Mazda Miata. Now, in case you haven't been following the channel, and you should be following the channel, you know recently I picked up a 1996 Mazda Miata, and I have rebuilt the shifter. I went ahead and changed the oil in the transmission and in the rear differential. But today I am going to be working with getting myself a little more comfortable in the car. Now, if you've not driven a first generation Mazda Miata before, or any Miata for that matter, they tend to be a little tight in the driver's compartment. I am about 5'11", and when I drive the car, my knees will touch the back of the steering wheel. It kind of makes it a little uncomfortable for me to be driving the car. Now, I know there are some things I can do, like a foamectomy to sit myself lower in the seat. Chances are I'm probably going to end up replacing that seat anyway and getting something a little more race oriented. But one of the things I can do is swap out the steering wheel for something a little bit smaller to give myself a little more leg room. So one of the things you can do to kind of increase the creature comfort space inside of the car is swap out the steering wheel for something smaller. Now, the stock Miata wheel, I believe it's right around 14 inches in diameter. But I mean, it's pretty substantially sized, and it takes up a bit of space that I could use for my legs to sit in a more comfortable position. In order to be able to swap to a new steering wheel, there's a couple pieces that you're going to have to pick up. One of them is a steering hub, and I also decided to add a quick detach. Both of these come from a company called NRG Innovations. And this is the first thing that's going on, and this will allow you to attach this to the steering shaft, and then the steering wheel will attach to this. Now, I want to add a quick detach, one, because race car, and two, it'll help facilitate me getting in and out of the car easier. And the way it works is, steering wheel goes on here, this is attached to the steering hub adapter that I showed you earlier, and basically you take it off, there's a little button you push in, and you squeeze on this ring, and it comes apart. This part stays on the car, this part stays attached to the steering wheel, and when I get out of the car, I can just pop the wheel off, give me some extra room to get out, and when I get in, I can get into the car, and then line these up, and snaps back into place. As for the steering wheel, I just went all in and got this nice D-shaped steering wheel from NRG Innovations. Hopefully, since it's got a little flatter on the bottom, that'll give me some extra space so I can get very comfortable underneath the wheel. In order to do this installation, you're going to need a couple of things. One, a 21mm socket to get the bolt off of the steering wheel, and probably some type of thread locker to make sure that none of this stuff rattles apart when you're done. In order to get started, first thing I'm going to do is disconnect my battery, and I will see you guys in the car. Okay, so here we are in the car. As you can see, with my foot on the accelerator, my right leg is touching the steering wheel. I don't have a lot of room in here, and if I want to try to heel and toe, it's just not happening. That's just an awkward position. So we're going to swap the steering wheel for something a little bit smaller. Now, to get started, I've already disconnected the battery, and the reason why you want to do that is you got to remove the airbag, and you don't want there to be any power in the system, just to lessen the chances of this going off. But with that disconnected, give yourself a second, press on the brake and make sure all the power is out of the system. And there are 4 bolts that are behind the steering wheel that you're going to have to remove, and that will take the airbag off. Okay, now that you have the 4 bolts on the back of the steering wheel off, the airbag should just pull out. All right. And then next, you want to disconnect these 2 plugs. The orange one is for your horn, and the blue one is for your airbag. Once your airbag is out, set it someplace out of the way. All right, now that you got the airbag out of the way, you're going to need a 21mm socket to remove this. Well, that is problematic. Gonna need an impact. Now you got the nut off, you gotta get the steering wheel off. Now I've seen people kind of hit it from side to side and work it loose. I am going to try to help that along with some PB Blaster. And I'm gonna put the nut back on here, but not tighten it all the way down. And I'm gonna tap it side to side with a rubber mallet and see if I can get it to come off that way. That was lucky. Didn't even have to use a mallet. Steering wheel's off. So this is your clock spring, and what you need to do is to keep this straight up. These 2 little nubs will fit onto the back of our new steering hub to make sure that all this still works. But before we get to that far, we're going to have to do possibly a little bit of surgery and to pop these pins loose so we can still use our horn. All right, so this is our new NRG Innovations steering hub. And as you can see on the back, it has this round attachment that is used on other Mazda models to help them with the horn, but on the Miata, we're not going to use that. So I've already gotten some in here and pried this loose, and we end up with this. And as you see, there are the 2, these are the 2 holes that you have to line up on the clock spring in order to make sure that your turn signals will turn off and when you recenter the wheel. So as you can see on the hub, this is a little dot that you need to line up with the arrow on the clock spring to make sure that all of this stays straight. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little test fit. And I see right now that we're going to have to trim this a little bit down to get it out of the way in order for all this to fit together properly. So what I've done is there's a little tab piece on here. I went ahead and trimmed that off and trimmed it down a little bit. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to trim back the wires from the connector. So my car is a 96, and the red and gray wire are going to be for the airbag, and the green wire with the red stripe is for the horn. Also, in case you need to go back to the way it was before, make sure when you cut this off to give yourself a little room, enough room to where you can easily resolder these lines back together. I have slid my hub on. I've made sure that it is correct with the clock spring underneath. And now we can reinstall the nut to hold this on here. Now that we got our nut back on, we're going to go ahead and torque this down to 29 to 36 foot-pounds. I have mine set for 32. All right, now that we got that on and torqued down, the next thing we need to do is address our wiring issues. Here is the base plate for the quick disconnect. And what it does is bolts onto here like so. But there are some wires that we're going to have to take care of first. This is the horn wire, this is the ground. And what that'll do is that will connect into this like so. And then we need to take our horn wire and connect it to this wire. And I got a terminal kit, and we're going to put a female spade connector onto that and connect everything together. Here's an interesting tidbit. don't think the horn in this car even works. On the base for the quick disconnect and with the hub, there's a little dot. There's a little dot on here. And when I go to bolt that on, I'm just going to line those two up and attach my Allen heads. So I got my Allen head screws and some blue Loctite to button this all up. And I know right now all of you are screaming at me, well, what about the airbag light? Well, I ordered a airbag defeat from Garage Star. It hasn't gotten here yet, and I'm going to show you how to do that, but only after I button this all up. Next comes the fun part. We get to attach this to this. Okay, before we get to start attaching wheel, the first thing you got to do is set up your horn connection, which is attaching the black wire to the black wire, yellow wire to the yellow wire. Then, just like before, there is a little dot right here on the quick connect that you're going to line up with the dot on the hub to make sure that everything will go on straight. Once you do that, you'll notice the hub has multiple bolt holes, but you're just going to line it up. And since it's an NRG wheel, it should just line straight up like that, and then you can attach the steering wheel to the hub. I think what I'm going to do is attach the quick disconnect to the hub to make bolting this all up much easier. And before going any further, don't forget there's an actual ring that goes around this. So I'm just going to use the one bolt to hold this in place, and I'm going to go grab the ring so I can finish putting it all together. All right, next, we'll start tackling that airbag light. So here we are back in the car. It's a couple days after I've done the wheel install. And I've been driving for a couple days and it's pretty good. But the only thing that's bothering me is, as you can see, other than the annoying buzzer, is that my airbag light is flashing. So today I'm going to show you guys how to fix that. So, how do you get rid of the airbag light? Well, there's a couple things you can do. I know some people have said they have taken out the dash and just put black tape over the airbag light, or they pulled the bulb, but even if you pull the bulb, the buzzer still goes off and it's pretty annoying. So I found a company called Project G, and they make this little guy right here, which is basically a resistor. It's wired on both ends, and you plug this into the airbag circuit. And what it does is it offers up just enough resistance so that the car thinks that the airbag is still installed and the light turns off. And I'm going to show you guys how to install it. Now, usually you can do this during the wheel install, but unfortunately I've already done it and I really don't feel like taking the car apart again to try to put this installed. So what I'm going to show you is there is another place where you can plug this in. And what you're going to do is, see this connector right here? It looks just like the same one that is in the steering column. This is for the horn, this is for the airbag, and what we're going to do is remove both of these connectors and then plug in our airbag resistor into this connector here and then put everything back together. And as you can see, I have it plugged into where the airbag goes, and then I'm going to take a small zip tie and kind of zip tie the resistor up out of the way. So what you'll find is that the horn clicked into the airbag connector, so we're going to have to zip tie this stuff together to make sure it doesn't come apart. Alright, and now there is everything put back together and zip tied out of the way, and the best part is no more blinking airbag light. So, mission accomplished. So basically, that's how I installed a new wheel in my car and fixed that airbag light. And if you enjoyed the video, leave me one of these, Hopefully you all are really enjoying the Mazda Speed content as well as the Mazda Miata content. And if you are, make sure you click the subscribe button so you can check out all my new videos when they drop. So I'm going to go take this car for a quick little drive. I haven't been able to really spend a lot of time driving it since I'm kind of getting used to it and making some space for myself inside of the car. But I got a couple errands I gotta run, so I will catch you all next time.